building the world's fastest K-Truck by combining the tiny 1996 Suzuki Carry with the all-wheel drive drivetrain of a Tesla Model 3 Performance. We're calling this the Senpai. This is a halo vehicle for my new car company in Detroit called Mutiny. We need to get it done fast so we can move on to our affordable truck I announced earlier in this week, our $15,000 open source K-Truck. So far in this project, we've gotten a wrecked but driving Model 3 Performance from an insurance auction, a K-Truck from Ohio, tore both vehicles apart with some help from our friends, and scanned both vehicles into 3D space. For the last few months, we've been working on the rally cage fabrication and moved on to suspension, but we've got one problem. The geometry of the front suspension has given us a ton of trouble so far, so we've had to develop some new skills to make it happen. Adapting the suspension from a 4,800-pound car to an 1,800-pound K-Truck has not been straightforward. So in this episode, we'll attempt to solve our upper controller mounting problem with a new tool we have at the shop, fabricate some custom braces to take the force of a rally jump, and make some access to finish the welding on our rally cage. But to get to the next stage, we need to tear the body off the truck. The top of the rally cage either needs finished welding, we can either lift the body or cut holes in the roof. I elected to lift the body. Getting the cab lifted shouldn't be hard with the car lift, but the rear stabilizer bars actually go through the cab, so I have to carefully knock these off for reinstallation later. The main beam is also tacked to the body in interesting places, so a little grinding, a little sanding, and cold chiseling should knock that free. The main beam is the key structure of the whole truck where the main hoop lands, so we'll give this a full weld to the body later on when it's time. It is stressful separating the body from the chassis since we spent so much time making sure everything is straight and level. We'll have to reorient things when we bring the body back down onto the jig later on. Access to get the main beam tacks wasn't exactly easy because we didn't plan to remove them at the start, but a racing vehicle is just a collection of problems solved, and our guy Blaine is resourceful. We strapped the cab and the remaining K-Truck frame to the lift arms to lift it out of the way. A little percussive persuasion and the body was free to lift up and out of the way. It's actually pretty rad looking, and this whole thing would be pretty cool without a cab on it, but that defeats the point. It's now time for a rematch with the upper control arm clevises. In the previous episode, we made our top hat for the front damper to mount, but the control arm also needs to be located in the same spot. With the front structure and top hat having some complex geometry, making the clevises both the right shape and locate the parts in the right place would either take a master fabricator, which we are not, or it would take us weeks. I'm choosing option 3, which is a new 3D scanner, so I can get a 3D model of the truck and then design the clevises in there. This is a huge upgrade from the original Einstar scanner, which I have here. They sent me the Einstar Rocket for free, so this is not an unbiased review, but this is not an ad, so take it for what it's worth. This one I did buy. The original Einstar is just IR. It just does IR. It's much bigger, and you have to use a cable while you're using it. This, the Einstar Rocket, is wireless, which is great because you can go to your gaming PC without having wires in the way, meaning you can go around the vehicle. So it's 32 blue laser lines that are all in a hash, and this gets way more detail than the IR ever could. They say that you can use this without markers, but I don't really believe that. I use markers with it every single time that I use it because it's way faster and it gets way more detail. On cars, scanners like this get lost because tubes and flat surfaces all look the same to it. The blue laser has a smaller aperture, so it can see fewer things, and so it gets lost in the sauce. When you use markers, it doesn't happen as much. These are the markers that I'm talking about. These are little reflective dots that you stick all over the piece that you're trying to scan, and this helps the scanner understand not only the orientation, but how big the object is and where the scanner is in relation to the object itself. It's important because the scanner is just taking pictures of shapes, and then it's trying to line all those up in the software so that you get a 3D model that's mostly accurate. The scanner is aware these are circles and how big they are, so when it sees them on an angle, it knows that it's looking at an object that's also on an angle. You can also use these scanner balls, which are pretty good. You can stick these to the piece that you're working on. I find that these don't work quite as well for some reason. I think because they're stood up off the surface, and so the geometry doesn't build right. If you have the time, use these. If you're in a rush, use these. That reminds me, when you're building a truck basically from scratch, half your job's on the computer, pulling CAD files, supplier drawings, random forum stuff, half from sites that haven't been modified or maintained since 2011. It is a great way to invite something or someone on your machine you didn't ask for. That's a pretty decent segue. Supporting the Car Fact this week is NordVPN. NordVPN is still our go-to VPN, which I use whenever we're on rally road trips with whatever sketchy Wi-Fi we can find. That part's not going anywhere, but NordVPN now has built-in next-gen antivirus. And the next-gen part isn't just marketing material. They came up with a new process to keep you and your machine safe. Traditional antivirus mostly waits for the bad file to land and then deals with it once it's already on your machine. This one's privacy first and works further up the chain. It blocks dangerous and scam sites before they load, flags phishing pages, and catches malware in a file while it's still downloading. When you're connected to the internet, anything can and does happen, so getting NordVPN is an affordable way to make sure you've got advanced protection from people who know what they're doing. The best part, the VPN, the next-gen antivirus, plus ad and tracker blocking are all part of one subscription, which is why they call it the all-in-one digital security app. Go to nordvpn.com/andydeeds or use code ANDYDEEDS to get 4 months extra. That's on the screen now. 30-day money-back guarantee, so if it's not for you, you get a refund, no drama. Links in the description. All right, back to the truck. I will frequently use both because the whole goal is that you're trying to give the scanner an irregular surface to scan so that it's not repeating. It actually likes how imprecise your hands are so they can build a model of exactly that spot. spot. It tracks the irregular geometry of how the stickers are laid out, so it knows, oh, I've been there before. It's almost like a map for the scanner to refer back to. So you can stick the dots on the part in whatever order you like. The thing is you don't want to be too close to the edge, and you don't want to be on any kind of compound curves. That doesn't work very well. Then you can also stick these roughly wherever you want. It's good to get them on a different plane so that the scanner can see exactly what's going on. I learned all this scanner stuff in about 100 hours of trial and error. The documentation for these things isn't very good. Most of the YouTube videos are just ads for them, so they don't really tell you what they do well and what they don't do well. The key thing I learned about these things is that you shouldn't be too greedy in what you're trying to capture. If you try to cover too large of an area, you're going to have some misalignments, and one misalignment means you have to throw out the entire thing. If you do it in pieces, then you align those scans because you have good overlaps, you're going to have a pretty good result. I don't know if you can see this. This is the grid that the scanner shoots out. It's actually 38 crossed laser lines, and this is what gets the exact topography of the object that you're scanning. This is just a camera, and it looks to see how is that grid shaped on the thing that is trying to scan, almost like if you were to lay a grid over a mountain range, you would see where there's peaks and valleys. It does that dozens of times a second to create an image inside of the computer. This is just the camera, really. The computer is the one that makes the whole model. Let's give it a shot. It's important to move as predictably as you can because it's building the picture as you're scanning the object, and that really helps it understand exactly where it's at on it. And if you move too quick, you're just going to lose the object. See, I lost it there. But as you go, it's building a map of every single marker that it sees, so it knows, oh, I've been here before. So if you pause it and then you go to scan a new area, you have to make sure that your scan at least overlaps a little bit so it can find where it's at. And it's like, oh yeah, cool, I've been in this town before. It also can't see through things. So if you're trying to get complex geometry, you have to shine around like a flashlight and kind of light up every area. Thankfully, you can see on the computer where it's tracking and where you have gaps in your scan. For this one, I only need the underside of the plate and the tube that it goes onto because we're trying to make the brackets that go there. And also we have the control arm roughly in position of where that's supposed to go. And so all these things together make a 3D model. And this is what happens when you scan it right. I did this for a few hours and I got exactly this. You see there's a couple errors inside of there, but those don't really make a big difference when you're doing CAD. The key is the main points. You do need a pretty powerful gaming PC to run these scanners because it takes a lot of computational force. I think I have an RTX 5080 and like 128 gigs of RAM. You probably don't need this much, but you do need a pretty stonky computer for this to go well. Otherwise, the frame rate's really low. And so now, like a cooking show, you don't have to wait like we did. I had our engineer draw up exactly what those clevises should look like in SolidWorks. And then we got them into DXF files that we can run on the ArcDroid. We've done a lot of ArcDroiding on this channel, so I'm going to skip that part and just show you this is our clevis plate. Perfectly designed to not only fit that tube so it has nice structural rigidity there, but it also fits that hand-bent top plate up top so that we have maximum strength. Engineer Eric also made us a guide plate so that you can slot the clevises exactly into these holes and they keep them nice and straight and strong. You line up these holes with the end of the top hat, boom, clevises are in the right spot. So Nick came over and we got them welded in. We had this lined up on the top, line up the clevises, bolted into the control arm, and they are perfect. They are in exactly the right spot that we need, and so we just mirror that to the driver's side, and we're done. And that is the finished product right there. You see they're all tacked in and ready to be welded, and they're firmly up against the tube and the plate there so that we have good contact. Then this control arm can move up and down wherever it wants. The key problem with this part, though, is that this right here is not supported by anything. There are extreme forces that come up through this damper during rally time, and they are going to bend this plate up and out of the way no matter how well it's welded right there. Now, I believe there's two ways to learn engineering. One is to go to engineering school, did a little bit of that, dropped out. Number two is to break a lot of stuff. I've broken a lot of stuff. Also, my other rally friends have. If you want to get into this, you don't need to go to engineering school. You just break a lot of stuff. So the plan is not only have a bar that goes up behind here, which there already is one, but also I want to have a bar that goes from that node there up to this plate over and then back down to that node there. Roll cages exist as a series of nodes. That's a node, that's a node, that's a node. You want your strong things near nodes, otherwise they don't do anything. And for the sake of time, we already went and pre-bent exactly the piece of pipe. Was it our first one? No, not really, but the second one worked great. This is the pipe right here. So strengthen up that corner. Settle. We're gonna notch it there. We're gonna notch it there. And then our pipe will be complete. For that, we use these Centurial coping gauges. Easy slip over the pipe and it shows you exactly what kind of notch you're trying to get, which is very convenient as you're trying to get tubing done because guessing at the notches just takes a super long amount of time. Centurial has this on their site for 3D printing. You put some welding wire in there and boom, or you can just buy them done. They sent these to us for free. I did not buy them, but they've been fantastic too. And that will be the first thing that we do on next week's episode when the team is here and we can fabricate as a group because it's more fun together. So I hope you have a happy 4th and I will see you in a week.